Good morning or good evening, everyone, depending on where you're joining us from today. And welcome to this session where we will be getting to know some of the members of the Esomar community. My name is Bianca from the Professional Standards team at Esomar, and I'm here today with my colleague Steliana from the Esomar membership team. Hi, Steliana.
Hi, Bianca. Hi, everybody. Today we are joined by Giulia Fabrizi, CEO at ALMAR Quality Research in Italy, and Sophie Damelincourt, founder and owner at Blue Lemon Insights and Strategy in France, and Dr. Jasper Grosskert, managing director at Dalberg Research in Kenya.
So welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And I guess just to start us off, we wanted to start with a kind of question to get to know you a little bit better. So we're wondering, what made you want to become a researcher? How did you find your way in the research sector? Giulia, maybe we can start with you.
Sure. Hello, everybody, and good morning, good evening, depending where you are, as you are saying. And thinking about what made me want to get into research, I'm immediately thinking about my family of 6 people, long conversations and meal times where each of us expressed their own personality. And I was always the one who moderated and facilitated the discussions. So the focus group is my natural habitat. And from them, I can say that curiosity, the desire to get to know people, most of all, to understand their behaviors, passions, sensations, as well as frustrations, tensions, that was what led me to become a psychologist. I discussed a thesis on color psychology, which easily allowed me to enter the marketing and advertising industry. I will be forever grateful to relevant people I met on my path, employers, business partners, colleagues, and clients. They all reinforced my belief to become an insight professional. In 1995, a good 25 years ago, I became an Esomar member. And since then, I felt I entered a high professional environment, which enabled me to meet colleagues, clients, and also to be updated about new methodologies and topics, and most importantly, to be committed to the highest ethical and professional standards. And in 2017, I was appointed as an Esomar representative for Italy, along with Alberto Stracucci. And I'm very proud to spread the value of market research in my country.
Thank you, Giulia. Jasper, what do you think made you want to become a researcher, and also what made you stay in this industry?
Yeah, mine is a story of coincidences. So I'm an economist and psychologist by background, and then my PhD is already in interdisciplinary social sciences. Nothing with it has to do anything with market research. I worked for 10 years as a futurist. So long-term scenario studies, 50 years, 100 years, sometimes more, were my core. And I ended up in a study about the future of technology in Africa, which convinced me that I would like to work in rather than about Africa. So I moved to Nairobi, and I had a list of characteristics. I was looking for a job, a list of characteristics. I wanted to work with a product I could be proud of, with people I could I could respect and enjoy a company with, and who shared my values. I met, purely by coincidence, someone who needed a research director at a local research company that was at the time called Research Solutions Africa, and that was almost 10 years ago. So I sent out that email with the requirements, and 5 minutes later the phone rang. Don't go anywhere, we've got a job for you, you're a market researcher. And I just missed the exit from then, so I'm still here.
Well, that's brilliant. 2 really brilliant stories. And we come to you, Anne-Sophie. What made you kind of come into the insight sector, and also to stay in the insight sector, I guess?
Yeah, Bianca, first of all, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everyone. I'm very honored and delighted to be here with you. And I hope that you enjoy your first day of Esomar Insight Festival. My experience is very different. I started to work in marketing I started to work at Unilever and then Lactalis as a product manager. So we were doing research, which was included in our everyday job. And at this time, it's a long time ago, it was 20 years ago, I loved research because you could create strong modeling with good analysis and good stories for decision making. So I decided to move from marketing to be focused on research only. And I know that the way I did it is quite unusual. Normally you go from research to marketing, and I did something different. And so first of all, I worked at Nielsen for clients like Nestle and General Mills before created my own company 13 years ago. This still really helps me every day in my day-to-day work, because I think I have a full vision rather than having things in and looking at things in silos. So I still love research, and I'm quite involved in this community, and I'm very happy to have this great discussion with you.
Thank you. It's great to hear all these stories. Thank you for sharing with us. I think we can all agree that the past few months have been very challenging, both from a personal and professional perspective with the COVID-19 pandemic. What type of challenges have you seen among the research community in your countries in these past months? For example, let's start with Italy, with Giulia.
In Italy, you all know that it was the first country which was hit by COVID-19. So it was like a tsunami that shook our lives. We have been challenged in our main living areas, family, work, and spare time. And main challenges still relate to the ability to adapt to this new way of living. But we are Italian, we are very creative, and we have tried to move and transform the virus in virtus, since as always, crisis brings opportunities. So we used our suspended time to discover new skills, to learn new abilities, improving ourselves as person and as professional. For example, we had to accelerate our knowledge of online tools, offering the clients the possibility to conduct individual in-depth interviews and creative focus groups online. Unfortunately, this was not always feasible because some clients, aware of the advantages of online research, easily converted their projects from offline to online, while others had many doubts about using digital methodologies to test their new ideas, also in terms of privacy issues. So they decided to cancel or postpone their projects. And I have learned that in times of uncertainties, we all have to start from certainties. What do we love to do and what we do best? Keep in touch with people and clients who value us, and create new synergies with colleagues having the same values and beliefs. And as some speeches of today demonstrated clearly, collaboration is a must.
And Sophie, could you tell us about the challenges in France? Were they a bit similar?
Yeah, I think it's quite similar, and same in France. We have been hit quite strongly. Of course, it has been a shock for people and for companies. And well, I think France is also, well, we are between north of Europe and south, and I think we are close sometimes to Spain and Italy. Some clients are still very, very traditional, so online was not developed at all. And for some people, it was, and I think it's still very complicated to go fully digital. So of course, with digital, we can do a lot, but we can't do everything we did in the past. Like, for instance, when you're working on product testing or on flavoring category, it's really, really complicated. So I think, yes, it's similar, and I think also it's a good opportunity because digital was already here before in our industry, but maybe some countries like France didn't want to do it, didn't really want to move forward compared to other countries. So maybe in that sense, it's a good opportunity and push us to be more, not to stop traditional research, but to try to embrace also the future.
What about Kenya, Jasper? Would you like to jump in on the topic?
Yeah, I think our situation is slightly different. Kenya and many African countries responded to the crisis extremely early. So we shut down international airports when we still had 2-digit numbers of cases. We shut down travel from Nairobi to other places when we were still in 3-digit numbers of cases. So this is not people died, this is people identified as having COVID. So many countries responded very early, and when you were still able to travel freely, we already had intense temperature checks and symptom checks at airports, and so travel was severely restricted well before the crisis hit, and that means that we're also looking at a much flatter curve. But what that also meant is that we had in-country travel restrictions. For 3 months we were not able to leave Nairobi, for example, once we were inside, and not enter Nairobi once you were outside. And that comes together with a special characteristic of the market research industry, that in East Africa, I think we have the world's highest incidence of face-to-face interviews as a share of market research. It employs a large number of people on a temporary project basis, and of course everything ground to a halt. As Market Research Association, as the Marketing and Social Research Association of Kenya, we decided a full halt of all projects for about 6 weeks until the end of April. And only after then, under very strict constraints, allowed people to go out again, and that's still, those strict constraints are still in place. So it meant that quite a few agencies that heavily relied on fieldwork as a source of income are facing very threatening business times, and that the options to pivot out of it are not as bountiful as in other places, because there are no ready panels, and there is a lot of the digital infrastructure that works elsewhere does not work here because of the less reliability of the networks, and because a lot of our target audience is simply not connected and can't be reached in that way, a much higher percentage than elsewhere. So the challenges were quite many and compounding, and many of us are still worried about the way forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, there's clearly been a lot of challenges, many challenges in all different corners of the world. And I think what's been, really impressive to me as well is that in times of adversity, communities always find a way to come together and to support each other and try to find a way forward together through these challenges. And since lockdown in particular, here in the Netherlands, but also Italy and France, and with the measures that were taken as well in Africa, we've been, and with all of you as well, we've been meeting through the community circles concept, which was really an initiative to just via Microsoft Teams come together for a 1-hour call, 1.5-hour call within the community, and kind of create a space to meet and talk. So, that's been something that's been really close to my heart for the past few months, and hearing from the community. So I would also love to hear from you, how have you seen the community come together? What have been some of the highlights for you in these past few months that kind of, really keep you going? Maybe Anne-Sophie, I can start with you.
Yeah. Yes, well, I could moderate quite a lot of circles. We've made global and also local, and I remember, Giulia, I think we'll talk about it, but the one we had in Italy, which was really great. And as you said, Bianca, I think that you are always stronger together. And these circles came from scratch very rapidly. Maybe we've tried one circle, one session, and then we learned from what we had done, and then we've done the second one. And also, I think it is this way of doing things is very specific with this pandemic. I think, well, and maybe from my experience, maybe it's the first time we have the freedom or more freedom to try to fail or to try and to try something new and to learn from the past and to repeat it again. So I think from this perspective, it was really interesting. And also in the circle, we could discuss freely within the community. It was not, the format was really different from what we are doing, like webinars where you have speakers who deliver content to someone. Here, the beauty of it is that the content was coming from people. We were just moderating and people were just talking together and sharing ideas and experiences and practices. And beyond circles, what I think really interesting in that period as well is that I think, well, it's true for end clients and also especially from agencies. Many worked on reports, gathering behaviors and trying to find new products and new services to try to shape the future for free. And it's maybe the first time that we have seen everywhere, I think, in our community, but also in the consulting industry, for instance, so many reports with very good value. So I think this pandemic also brought positives.
Mm-hmm. And Jasper, I was just actually, I think a couple of weeks ago in an Africa-specific community circle, and it was incredibly busy. I think at one point 90 or 100 people on the Microsoft Teams call, and I know that you were in the chat, kind of exchanging all kinds of different ideas and asking some really interesting questions. So how has this kind of experience been for you the past few months?
Yeah. So the one thing I can say is that even well pre-COVID, the African research community, and especially the East African research community, is a very friendly crowd, and there's a lot of support to each other. And the Kenya Marketing and Social Research Association has a long history of working together very closely, and we recommend clients to each other, and we let our accountants sit together to figure out complicated tax issues and stuff like that. So there's a lot of togetherness, and on the WhatsApp groups, the enumerators will recommend contacts in Angola and in DRC and whatever is needed. That spirit was really exacerbated when the crisis hit. Partnerships that would usually take us 3, 4, 5 months to negotiate were possible within 24 to 48 hours on data sharing, on access to panel sharing, and all these kinds of things. We are all able to move very, very quickly. And a lot of people shared their experience of working with new softwares like Mural or WhatsApp breakout groups or WhatsApp Business or others with new tools extremely quickly. So the community circles, I think, are a logical extension of that spirit. And those who've been on the Africa Community Circle call, yes, 1, they were extremely well attended. 2, they were full of very true accounts of where the rubber hits the road and the problems. So very specific on, okay, I used to collect this time series every week to measure my company's performance with respect to ABC, and my measurement tools have fallen apart. How do I ensure continuity? And other people would chip in and recommend how to create continuity, or how to support the enumerators that are currently out of jobs, or how to reach unconnected beneficiaries in meaningful ways, how to get devices into people's hands so they could respond. So for me, this has been really an expression of something that we've always seen, has come very strongly to the foreground, and it is that spirit of collaboration, exchange, and togetherness, and tremendous generosity and kindness. The mutual support has been absolutely genuine, and nobody's riding on the opportunity that somebody else's struggles might offer at this point. It's really like, no, there's a pie that we can all build, so let's build that together, and so that's been really encouraging. Thanks.
Talking about the local circles, indeed we held specifically for the African region, or in Italy as well. What do you think are some of the benefits of a more regional approach than a global one? Giulia, would you like to comment on that?
Yes. the regional approach is really very useful to go more in depth on the specific issues of the specific area. So it is a way to bring out what is missing and what can be provided from all the professionals and leaders in our sector. So I have seen other community circle also in October, all again related to the African region, related to the face-to-face interviewing because of the problem Jasper was mentioning about the penetration of internet. So it will be very interesting also for not African colleagues to listen to Massimo Cealti, who will provide research tips to manage face-to-face interviewing. So it will be, I think that Esomar has been a lighthouse for our industry through these regional and community circles, because we could be supported and guided through this uncertain adverse time. So we have to thank also the clients who intervene in these community circles that gave us a lot of inputs in order to understand their needs, what we could do in order to be relevant in terms of quality of our research, becoming strategic partners for them and helping them to find the directions to navigate forwards. So these are the main points, the main highlights from community circles and regional perspective.
Thank you, Giulia. And Sophie, I'm really curious, from your Esomar Council perspective, with your Esomar Council hat, is this an initiative that we're looking to continue, on a regular basis? Is this something that, we're going to continue seeing as a platform?
I think, well, we have to. I think we have to continue the circles. First of all, because this community and Esomar community, we are people belonging to a community made of people. Yes, we use digital, and also maybe one day it will be easier to use face-to-face. And I think it's something really powerful to share knowledge, best practices by and for a community with curated content. I really insist on this idea of it's by and for a community. It's not by someone to, it's not this vertical moderation. And also, as it was said, I think with this circle, we can be very local. Esomar is a global association, but as Joachim Bretschau, president, says, we can't be global if we are not local. And also these circles are all about variety, diversity, richness, openness, self-empowerment, and for stronger business. So for all these reasons, and if Esomar also, and if you, Bianca, if you are happy to continue, I think, yes, we should definitely.
Absolutely, yeah, and I'm always, just after every session, sometimes for Europe there it's slightly unfriendly times, maybe until 8:30 or 9 p.m. and I think, I'm going to be really tired, but every time, I leave the session, I'm inspired, I've learned something new, and I just, I leave kind of with a warmth in my heart, so that's always really brilliant. Also, I just would have a question for Jasper. I know that earlier you mentioned you're a futurist, and I couldn't pass the opportunity to ask you a little bit more about that. What do you foresee in terms of our sector, in terms of the insights community? There's a lot of talk about digital. Is it here to stay? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I must admit that I don't know the research industry in Europe or the US well enough, other than what I know from Esomar circles and from conferences and pitches. But I've never been a researcher or never been a market researcher in Europe. In our markets, it is a bit easier because we are at the Kodak moment where the photo industry was in the year 2000, which is really, I think, that digital is here to stay, even though it is not this most suitable method in many contexts, but the fact that it is so much cheaper just makes it a very difficult choice for clients to choose for the quality that one as a researcher would recommend. So I think there's going to be a lot of half knowledge out there. There's going to be a lot of contaminated data out there. I mean, the same with kind of the data analytics, with the kind of traffic that we currently have with bots, and whether that's chatbots or websites visiting or others, the kind of social media data that we're analyzing is contaminated. The kind of traffic data that we're looking at is contaminated. The number of devices that actually run the Internet of Things means that very soon we will have more things online than people, and some of these things leave traces that look like people's traces, and intentionally so. So it becomes harder and harder to look through all these things and see the actual pieces. So what I think is we're going to see and need some seminal pieces of extremely high quality research that become a shared asset to work with as a benchmark for everyone, and that we can use to benchmark all this other kind of data and dig for the truth in the other kind of data in a meaningful way. Those I definitely see coming. Then I see a lot of noise, we're not an industry that is resistant to fake news, so invented surveys of all types will be absolutely flooding the market. And of course, it's a question whether companies like us are the ones who will be the ones providing all the research, whether it's good or bad, or whether it comes from other sources. So the same thing, newcomers to the market will grab a significant piece of market share. They will be more and more like us, and we need to redefine ourselves and break down our data silos, become better at the storytelling, connect into the other world, and find a unique way in which we can combine things. One of the things that we've done, we now have an in-house GIS team. So we have 12 GIS analysts in-house who do just geospatial analysis. And so for Kenya, for example, for every square kilometer, we have 150 variables times 500,000 square kilometers. And so that means that I know a lot of context about every survey response, because the survey response is geolocated. And then I can tell, okay, this respondent is slightly richer than the typical neighbors. I wonder whether their experience is different from someone who has the same socioeconomic status, but in an area where they're slightly poorer than their neighbors, or slightly higher educated or lower educated. So that's one of the ways. And I think there's every agency has to find for itself ways in which they can make sense of these things. The final thing I want to say about this is that I think one thing that will be absolutely crucial in this new time is great qualitative research, because this data does tell us a lot of things on what is happening, but the real how, the real motivation, the real feel is ethnographies, is qualitative research, is sitting deep inside and being as connected as possible, either connecting the client directly to their market and their experience and their world, or us sitting in the middle. But those are some of the key points that I see arising.
And last but not least, what are you looking forward to the most at the Insights Festival in the next few days? Giulia, would you like to share with us?
Yes, I have attended this afternoon the relevant speeches, and I really look forward to the next days, and most of all the Brands Connect series on the 16th and 17th, which will be of great help in really understand the client's need and how we can be useful to them.
And what about you and Sophie? Have you spotted something you really don't want to miss?
Yeah, I think the same section as Giulia, and beyond that, of course, being inspired. And being on council also, well, I have two hats here from my company and also for Esomar. This format is new and unprecedented, so I hope that everyone will find a way to also to network, to be inspired, and to have a feeling of real congress, even if it's not we can't meet face to face.
True. And what about you, Jasper? What are you looking forward to the next days?
For me, the first step has been the participant list, and I'm looking forward to the networking and hope to do that as much as possible, even while being far away, to connect with new methods, new people, new technologies, old and new friends and colleagues. And then the Esomar events for me are always just like a flood of things where I don't pick too many priorities. I want to be exposed to new things that trigger thoughts in me and what we could apply here and what we could do otherwise. And the entire experience might be interrupted by what I'm looking forward most to, expecting my third boy every now and then, like between now and a few days. So my Insights Festival experience might be cut short. But yes, lots to look forward to.
That's really exciting, Jasper. Our congratulations to you in advance, and thank you for the insights and your, with your futurist hat and kind of giving us a bit of a look into what might be to come. And thank you, Anne-Sophie and Giulia, Jasper, Steliana. It's been really nice to be here with you this evening, and getting to know you all a little bit better and talking to our community as well. So thank you so much. Stay tuned, everybody, for the opening ceremony that is starting straight after this, and see you in the next few days. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Ciao.
Bye, Giulia. Ciao.
Ciao. I'm Sophie.